All right, welcome. Welcome to my podcast, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. My name is Nichel Anderson. This week, this will be my director clip for episodes 7 and 8. That by the time you get to listen to this episode on my director's clip, those episodes have already been published, either by only the clip snippet or pretty much the full episodes. If you're a patron, you get to listen to the full episodes. If you have been following me so far with my new podcast that I kicked off in 2017, you pretty much know that the Patreon program is on my patreon.com/Nichel Anderson. That link would be in the description of this episode for you to click to and learn more information about it, or to click there to get the full episode if by chance you are already a patron, and I hope that you are. If you're not, please check that out. Pretty much what that is with this particular podcast, it is considered a premium content podcast, so I do release mostly only snippets of my short stories that I have written, and from there, if you wanted to get the rest of that short story for that week, you will have to become a patron, and you can go to my patreon.com/Nichel Anderson to get the full short story and to be, a supporter of my of this particular podcast that I'm doing and the future things I want to do, because I love and enjoy writing. It's my creative aspect and it's so much fun, and I do get feedback that people enjoy reading my stories, so consider that. All right, let's get started with this episode, which I'm basically talking about the previous episodes of the main short story that I have released. In this particular one, again, I'm talking about episode 7, episode 8, and you also can get a clip it or snippet visual experience on the YouTube channel. Now, again, if you're just joining in, checking out my podcast YouTube channel, because mostly the stories that I have written so far is of my favorite and my hearts of heart production, which is MOLIAE, which is from my book Mitzrayim, a memoir. It deals with ancient Egypt, Kemet. And so I have been really focusing on that because those characters are coming through really strong, particularly Queen Hagar and King Mahlon, that I mentioned it on our social media platform on Facebook about a month or so ago. By the time you listen to this episode, it would be. But at any rate, so right now it's really focusing on MOLIAE. And we also still with MOLIAE, just to give you some information if you're new to my podcast and my productions, I have been communicating to my followers that we are still in the prep phase of preparing to return back to stage. It will be the third return, the prestige return of MOLIAE stage play, where it will be a bigger production. Most of the characters from my book will finally make their debut on stage. So this podcast came to me with that first scene in episode 1 of this season 1 of starting this podcast of Queen Hagar. And as I mentioned earlier, it came to me about a week or so later, after I already kicked off the podcast, that this would be the year of King Mahlon and Queen Hagar, a moment of time of their life, which is before the time of Princess Amina, which Princess Amina is the main character in my book, Mitzrayim Memoir. She was the first one that came through real strong and was able to pick up all of these other characters that made that book, what it is today still, and into the initial websodes that we did. The stage plays, they were short. They was only on the 5 initial characters, which is Princess Amina, the 2 kings that you have heard about if you've been following me for a while. If you're new to my productions, the 2 kings are King Damar and King Daniel. And then her her two friends, her two childhood friends, which Selma and Nahar. So I have been mostly focusing on them because that was initially come from my book. But this particular podcast is pretty much that scene with Queen Hagar is before the time of Princess Amelia. She has not been born yet. So also we get to, let me back up. I have mentioned that in my book it's at least about 50 characters or so. It's so many people that came through when I was moved to write that book non-stop. It was like writing a journal. And at any rate, when I take this production, which we are still in the prep stage of preparing, because it's a big production, it's a lot of characters, it's a lot of work. As an independent producer, you got to do what you have to do to make it happen, but you want to make it happen right. And it's other things that will be rolled out, not just the stage play, but other aspects that I want to roll out, like the merchandise line, the product line, and so forth, and other things outside of that realm being prepared once we go to stage. Because when you go to stage, those that don't know and those that do know can get what I'm saying. It's a lot of elements that you have to put together, especially if you're launching types of things that's related to the production. So you want to do it right, and you want to make sure you have the right team, and things takes time to get everything in place. And plus, after the stage play production, this prestige return, I'm in the process of releasing something else that I'm not going to say. So, so these directed clips, like I said in the last director clip that I did, that was a few weeks ago, episode 9. In that director clip, it was episode 5 and 6. That's when I kind of put it out there that I'm noticing that I'm giving these little nuggets of information of what's going on and what I'm doing that you don't get on my social media platform. I do not put it on blast. Even some of the people that's a part of my team don't know. They're finding out when you're finding out. So it is good to tune in to my director's clip. You get more than this, my analysis and going over my clip notes, as I should say, or reading through pretty much the scene and then telling you how it came about. Most of these scenes, well, let me just back up. These scenes is pretty much being written as I see the scene. So I'm not really creating an outline. So what you're getting is raw, natural material that's coming through. And it's coming through this particular, we call it characters, but I think it's their personalities are coming through and they're telling me their story for me to write it. It's the same as I wrote the book, that unbelievable, that experience. So when you're getting these stories, you're basically getting it. I'm sitting in front of my computer and I'm just writing it out. I see the scene and it just flows out like flowing water. And that's what you're getting, that natural first-hand experience, and the pieces are putting together, as I said before, when I realized that this year will be about Queen Hagar and King Mahlon. It's flowing out as if puzzles are being put together backwards in time. And it's basically, the truth. So at any rate, these director clips, you get not just my review and not just my take on it when I'm able to sit back and really take a look at it. Because when I wrote the book, it was just fast forward. That's what I had to do. The images were so much in my head, that I had to get out. And I was just sitting there just typing it out as if like just rereading a journal. But I didn't have to do all that. I just had to write out what I've been seeing. And it's the same thing now. But now as years has passed and I've grown and understanding more what happened then. So now when it comes up now, especially now for me to do this podcast, it just kind of all fit. And now I get it. Now I understand. And so I'm learning and finding out more about these characters, because the prestige return of MOLIAE stage play would not only be a bigger production, but it would be so many characters that if you follow this podcast, and definitely you would become a patron of this podcast, you will get more information of the characters that you will end up seeing on stage. You will be able to be connected with them and understand the choices that they will pretty much end up making or maybe did not make. And it's more of an emotional connection. And those that love theater, the live performance, it's such a bigger experience in a sense that you're more connected because you know the characters. This is a great opportunity for you to connect with them and to understand. And these are more characters that are coming up outside of the initial amount that I said that came through my book, Mitzrayim, a memoir. These new characters are coming up, and I'm like you, that I'm sensing this, like trying to get every information I can as I'm reading out these scenes and learning about these new people. In my last clip, when I talked about, those characters that came through, like Kamar Data and so forth, and Halik, and these people that did not, Kamar Data was in the book. He will make his debut on stage, but the other characters that, the supporting characters that seems to be coming up is interesting. And then Ezra has been on the scene from day one when I started this podcast. And as I mentioned in my last director's clip earlier this month, a couple of weeks ago, I already seen a scene that I would get to find out about his wife. And Ezra is the father of Nahar. Nahar is a very important character during the time of Aminya, when she finally is on the scene. Right now, she is not. Right now, Nahar, Selma, all those people are not, except the two kings, because they're a little bit older. And I can't really go too much into that, because who are we kidding? When the Prestige return of MOLIAE stage play goes live, and I announce, this is the announcement, these are our one dates, it will be all about those two kings. So it's nice to kind of step back from them and learn about all these other people, and especially about King Mahlon. I'm going to go ahead before I start into this episode 7 and 8 and just let you know that I am very interested in King Mahlon. I want to know like I said, if you're just joining this podcast, or if you have been following me and you have been keeping up each of these episodes, and I've been talking about Queen Hagar, where she made it known. She was coming through in my mind so strong, and I finally put it together. Pretty much what the message was, is that this would be the year for Queen Hagar and Mahlon. But Mahlon has been quiet. I haven't got much input for him, like a pickup of more of his background. Just Hagar. It's as if he's saying to his queen, you speak first and I will be last. And then that's when I had put on social media that I have already know the last scene for this season 1. I already seen it. Oh my God, I'm speechless. And even looking at that, I still got more questions. I cannot wait until Queen Hagar is saying, now you will hear mostly from King Mahlon. I'm not sure next season 2 that would be mostly King Mahlon, but I want to know his background, because so far what I'm picking up for Queen Hagar, it's amazing. No wonder she came off so strong, as I mentioned before. And now I am curious about King Mahlon. I just can't wait to get into more of the moments of their relationship. How did they meet? What happened? What was his background? What was his training? His education. I just want to know about King Mahlon, because it's so interesting, but it's so respectful in the sense he let his wife speak more first, in a sense. So anyhow, I just want to share with that I haven't really picked up. It's I tell you this, it's one thing that picked up from him that actually was a year ago, before this whole podcast came to me to do, which I am doing 2, by the way. I'm doing 2 podcasts. One is called Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. That deals with modern day topics and how I motivate and encourage people, social, cultural things, where I would also talk about theatrical productions, because that's what I do on the side. And then I also talk about the journey of life and how you can motivate yourself. And I give people strategies, and it's based on my book, Corporate America, Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. But the other second podcast is basically what you're listening to now, which is my short stories. But at any rate, the point that I brought that up was that it was a year ago before I even thought about creating, these 2 podcasts. Like I said before, the other podcast that I'm doing weekly is called Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. That's one podcast. And then in this podcast, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. And it came to me with this particular image of a king. And I remember calling that, when I did my post, I posted on Facebook first, and I said when they were called kings, which were true, right? Which is true. And I didn't tell anybody, but I think maybe a week or so after, a few weeks after I posted it, I saw a scene, and that scene was of King Mahlon, and I saw him as a baby, and I saw his mother and father, and I saw the moment that they gave him his name, and then that was it. That was the last scene of it. And something told me, I wonder if I can, I can't tell you too much. But another thought came to my mind. The podcast wasn't it. But now going forward, and I'm doing these podcasts, and I'm, learning about them more, and I'm realizing and sensing that Mahlon is letting Queen Hagar do most of the talking. Like, he's coming in the last act, I guess. It's just really perked my curiosity, so I can't wait to delve into that and to learn more about him. It's going to be interesting, I'll tell you that, because the things that I'm picking up and have seen, the scenes, before I even written it, of Queen Hagar, I am just blown away. I mean, and I have seen little snippets of her childhood that explains why she has so much mastery of language. And you have to understand, learning a language is no easy. And then back in that day, I mean, come on, we're talking about ancient languages, okay? That's not an easy task to do. And she's able to switch up like it's nobody business. I mean, you got to know, what was her training? What did she do? What was her experience? I mean, that in itself is a book, okay? And I'm particularly interested of those that don't say much, because you talking about a book. That's why I want to find out about King Mahlon. All right, let's get started with this one. I'm so excited. You know what? I really love these director clips. I hope you do too, because it gets me an opportunity, because I'm so busy, to stop. Like I said, I'm writing them this out. I'm not pre-planning it or taking notes. I'm calling it clip notes of the director, what have you. But really, actually, it's just me a way to go back and see what I've written. But in the industry, you basically call them clip notes, director's clip notes. So I'm just calling it that, so we can be able to go back and focus what I'm talking about. Let's get started with episode 7. Episode 7. All right. So I'm going to get there. And episode 7 pretty much was in a new day, dreams come true. And basically what that dealt with is talking about the royal family. Princess Hannah finally gets to spend time with her father. Queen Hagar as well is there. So you see the royal family in one scene all together. Ezra is there with royal attendants helping him to take care of Mahlon as he continued to improve. Right? So we're learning that it was some type of injury that he encountered. It definitely come to me, it's got to be some type of battle. Maybe that war that Natu mentioned to Comrade Datar, something like that. So they spend this moment together. It's just a lovely moment. If you haven't got a chance to, I'm trying to remember in that sense that definitely was a clip, and you pretty much, you know what? I don't think in that clip snippet, you didn't really get that scene with Princess Hannah and King Mahlon. If you haven't decided to be a patron, you need to go ahead and be a patron. The stories is going to be, oh my gosh, it's going to be awesome. But the scene with King Mahlon and Princess Hannah, it's just a nice, beautiful scene. It's so lovely how she is communicating with her father and vice versa, and it's so nice to hear that, and I could see it, and it was just so lovely. And how Queen Hagar was there. Now I can't tell you too much in the sense of the communication between King Mahlon and Queen Hagar, unless you pretty much is a patron and you are able to get that what basically happened. But pretty much they get to bond and spend some time together. But it's worth to become a patron to hear what happened. But you did get to hear in the clip that was made public to everybody, is where there's a new character. His name is Tesnar. He comes there, and he seems like he's the only one from the High Council of the governing body that knows that King Mahlon is alive, and he's getting better, and he's somewhere in a secret location of the palace. No one really knows, and so it seems like they're old friends. That's what it seems like. And his name is Tesnar, and he did give them a message that he actually came to see King Mahlon and Queen Hagar because the Orions has arrived at the palace in Mitzrayim, as well as some tribal leaders. And it just gave you the impression that it seems that it was some type of disagreement in the other surrounding territories, and some tribal leaders have sided together against King Mahlon. That's what I'm just picking up, right? Because again, if you knew coming to this podcast, as I mentioned earlier, I don't really have to write out and plug away this and that. It's the same when I wrote Mitzrayim. It's like the images come through, and any images that are keep coming through predominantly is what I need to do first, meaning what I need to write first. And as I'm writing it, it seems to flow like water of the pieces of the puzzles coming together backwards in time. And so it just flows. So I'm actually learning what's going on, but I'm actually writing it out. And then now doing these director's clip, I'm able to stop and go back and talk and share with you. So what you hear is actually a live reaction. It's no rehearsal. It's no pre-script that I'm going by. I'm actually sitting here with my microphone and I'm going through it, and I'm just talking to you as if we're actually sitting at a cafe drinking tea or coffee, whatever your preference, right? But we're talking about these characters and having that bonding experience in that. Definitely, if you love stories and you love the message that you get from characters of why they do certain things and who connect to who and so forth. But anyway, so in that particular episode, it kind of clips off where Tesna mentioned to them that in fact the Orions has arrived. They're looking for their final say, and that's basically what that is on that episode. So it gives you still a sense of something is definitely coming in the future based on this constant conflict with the Orions, because something happened in the past to the point that it almost knocked out the king of Mitzrayim, and Queen Hagar had to step up and make sure that everyone know that the rulership is still going strong. She is right now is the head face of the royal family. You don't need to ask about King Mahlon or where he's at. So it's very top secret. And it seems that if Tesnar, right, if he's the only one in that particular council member that knows of King Mahlon, that means they don't trust most people in the government. And then remember, in the second episode, I believe it was the second episode or so, where the second or the third episode, where it's discovered that a secret spy of the royal family, of their military, has been pretty much watching everything. And when I wrote that scene, the first scene I saw, trust me now, the first scene that I saw was only Queen Hagar and Ezra walking out on this balcony. So that's how I do. So I describe the scene, and then I feel who is talking first, and then I start writing it, and then it just starts flowing, like putting puzzles together. I did not know that she had a secret spy until I got to the point where it seemed like their conversation was going to be interrupted. And so when I'm writing, in my mind, I'm asking, why is it being interrupted? And then the scene just comes to me, and then I see this is somebody else, and I could put it together. It's hard to explain. I'm trying to explain it as much as possible, but that's what I knew. And then I knew it was just one. It wasn't two, and it made sense. It made sense. And when he handed her, I just kept remember seeing in my mind of that image that he was handing her something. So to me, that's when I knew he was a trusted a member of the family, and no one knows in the military really his role. Even the fact, fast forward, other episode where he's on the scene at Ganuto based on the order of Queen Hagar to support Comrade Tata, and he's communicating to Comrade Tata in that reflection of light that I mentioned early episodes of how they pretty much must have done in that way when they're so far a distance to communicate that in that distance. That is not indicated the Comrade Tata of Halek, or his role is very top secret, and it would make sense why only a few people know, because Comrade Tata doesn't seem that he know the whereabouts or the status of King Mahlon. That's what I'm feeling. If you didn't get that in the episodes, I'm pretty much going to tell you now, it doesn't seem that he's aware. Like maybe he know that something, he doesn't know the whole detail. He doesn't know where King Mahlon is. I can go ahead and tell you what I'm feeling right now. At this point, he doesn't know exactly where he's at or pretty much his status Only those few, Ezra and those selected royal female attendants that is always with Ezra, and they must be very top secret too, and must be kept pretty much in that same area that they're not let out. That's what I'm thinking. And then Queen Hagar, and then now Tesner, and of course when we learn about Queen Hagar mother and father, they know. So it's very few people. So to me, I'm just gonna put it out there, right? Because this is my director's clip, and I have said last time that it seems that you will get extra nuggets of finding out what's what. Is that they're trying to, this is what I think, they're trying to sniff out the traitor. Because if you go back, and I believe, I guess I'm jumping ahead now because we pretty much got through episode 7. Because if you're not a patron and you didn't really get to listen to all of that clip, you'll miss more of what I'm saying. You won't get it because if you didn't get to hear the whole short story, only the clip. So really from that episode 7 is where you set up that we finally get to hear a little bit from King Mahlon, and that family will get to be connected, and then Tesner come and interrupts in that sense to let them know that the Orions is there for their final say. So if you didn't hear about that's the reason why Tesner there, I guess I can go ahead and let you know it's about their final say, and then there's some more interaction between them 3, and then you do get that scene with King Mahlon and Princess Hannah, and it is so beautiful when you see the father and the daughter together. All right, so now if we move to episode 8. So I guess what I was about to tell you earlier about them sniffing out the traitor, you pretty much, let's see, I'm just kind of jumping ahead here. Yeah, you're not going to really get to see that scene until you actually get access to episode 10, which by then is already published. By the time you hear this one, for my director's clip 7 and 8, episode 10 would have already been uploaded and published. So you pretty much have to follow that one. So I guess I can go ahead and go there. The reason why I'm putting it together, that it seems like they're trying to snuff out the traitor, and that's why everything is very secret about King Mahlon's status, is because in that particular clip, and I'm going to try to remember where it clipped off, pretty much Queen Hagar doesn't trust those tribal leaders. And she looked at them in a very particular way to show you that she doesn't trust them. That they should be on Mitzrayim's side, but they're not. And she definitely don't trust the Orions. Because in the second episode, when we find out not only that she's pregnant, that Mahlon finally comes out of his coma, she mentioned to Mahlon before she says, pretty much let them know that they're having a baby, is that they will deal with the Orions. And like I said earlier, when I found out a few weeks after starting this podcast that Queen Hagar let it known to me that this is their year, that I saw clips, only small images, I'm calling it clips, small images of scenes, of flashbacks in the sense of her childhood. And that's what I'm curious about, her whole upbringing, where she got educated from and her experiences, because it was something. Okay, because you're not dealing with anybody that just don't know anything, and I just became a queen and I'm just that. No, this is a very intelligent. It's like she traveled places that we could only dream of. So she been around, she know a lot. And so going back to that whole traitor and sniffing out, and how it seems like both of them, King Mahlon, is like 2 double teams working together, and to find out very strategically of who's to trust and who is the person that they need to go and nip this in the bud. And they don't know that yet for some reason. Even though she has good senses, really good senses, for some reason, it's like at least they know they need to reevaluate things and shut everything down and be very secretive till they find out who and why and so forth. But she know that it stems from the Orions. And that scene that you would get in that episode right there, where she give them the final say of Mitzrayim, which evidently does not go well, but she doesn't care, is that gives you that indication what that is. All right, so again, so talking about that, going to episode 8 right quick, is pretty much going over where we're going back to Natu. Natu pretty much comes back in the scene. He's been gone for a while. Natu was in the very first episode, and that was the scene that gave me the indication that I got to do another podcast, and it's got to be a feature on my stories, and I have to come out swinging with MOLIAE to talk about all these other characters. Natu is a brand new character. He has not been in any of my other productions, not in my book or nothing, but his race has. All right, his origin has, and I'm talking about the Orions. The Orions were definitely in my book, Mitzrayim. They were in the websodes, not in any of the stage plays, but they will be in the Prestige Return of MOLIAE stage play, what we are preparing to return back to stage, but have not announced it. The Orions will be on the scene. I don't think Natu will be there in that stage play that I'm bringing back, but who knows, right? Anyway, he's on a special assignment from Echo, the leader of the Orions, and pretty much it's another tribal leader. Okay, so again, this is now episode 8 that I'm talking about, which is entitled "In a Moment a New Path is Revealed." By this time, that's already published and available. It will be a clip-it as well, so to get that full episode you have to be a patron. But pretty much just to talk about those notes, I just kept seeing Natu walking out of this hut, and a tribal leader, how I described the attire that he had walking behind him, and they on the same team, which obviously not on the same team of Mitzrayim. Now, this is the scene that, you know what, I saw that scene, and the next thing that came in my mind while I'm typing the scene out, right, before I record it, okay, because I pretty much type it out and then I record it, because I'm typing out the scenes that I see in my mind, and they just flowing, those images coming real strong, as if they're pretty much they're communicating to me to get it out, just like I described in my book Mitzrayim. But this is the thing I want to share with you. This tribal leader's name, Otin, pretty much. I kept hearing this line about Mitzrayim and the gold there. Now, it doesn't give me a really big clue of why the Orions are obsessed about King Mahlon. They pretty much wanted him out of the way so they could get control, or they wanted him to go along whatever they're trying to control. Because remember, when we brought that episode up with Natu, and he's going to tell his elders that it didn't go well, or come to find out Queen Hagar is running this show. Now we got to throw everything out the cave window, because they were in a cave. Southern Sudan is that you know, like, wow, we got to do something different. And you know, because she ain't no ordinary queen, and so we have to try to do something different. But Otin said this is the line that popped up after I seen that image of them coming out the hut, and so then I described the scene. This line kept coming up to me, what Otin said to Natu. They have tried as well to get into the area of the place that you seek, where the gods of there, as he pointed up to the skies, left layers of gold as far as you can see. Then Natu, that's what I kept hearing, something about gold, connecting it to describing the area, which the area we're talking about is Mitzrayim. Because the line before Otin said that I kept seeing it in my mind to write, where the gods of there, he pointed up to the skies, left layers of gold as far as you can see. Before Otin said that, it was a line that I felt that need to talk about Mitzrayim. And Natu said, how can we trust them in that region against Mitzrayim? So that gave me the clue to this line that I felt that I needed to write about connecting the gold and connecting it to Mitzrayim. Natu confirmed it in the sense that we're talking about Mitzrayim. Because in Otin's line, he's not really saying Mitzrayim, but he's describing some place. And I'll repeat what he said. The line was, they have tried as well to get into the area of the place that you seek, where the gods of there, Otin pointed upwards to the skies, left layers of gold as far as you can see. Now, Natu's response to that was, there is always more than gold to be taken, in a sense that he kind of brushed it off. Maybe that was his ego, because he didn't get to accomplish what his elders wanted him to do. So now he's on this other assignment. And so he's trying to brush it off, that even if we don't get that, you know, kind of set the bar low. Okay, let's just put it out there. That's what he's doing. But Otin came back and he chuckled. And I said that he chuckled in a way that I could feel as a foolish type way to say such a thing. And so he came back to Natu and he said, it is not. For Mitzrayim is from a sacred place why else your elders come this far to get what you see in the lands of power. And I'm power pretty much is the pyramids, right? And so that's when when I said that he kind of sat back and he soaked in the words, because he had to go ahead and admit Mitzrayim is to Jim. That's what they need to do. So that was really the main takeaway from that scene. But then something else happened. There's a commotion. So pretty much by the time get to that episode that's by now has already been published, it will be a clip. Something is going on, and you find out that something else happens towards the end that makes Natu feel that, oh my gosh, this might be a breakthrough, that I can go back to the elders and show them that I'm still in the game, still invaluable to the whole mission against Mitzrayim, because that's the title. It says, in a moment a new path is revealed. So he sees a new path that can get the Orions to where they want to be, which is pretty much, it seems like, in control of Mitzrayim so far. And so something happens towards the end that brings him in his favor. Something happens that's in his favor, and he decides pretty much how to go about it. And to know what that would be, you have to be a patron to get that full episode. All right, so that wraps up my director's clip. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please tune in every week. I release a new episode every week, and pretty much after 4 episodes that I release, which is mainly the clip snippets, I do these director clips where I go back and I talk about it and give you some behind the scenes of what I'm doing. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this clip and to the extra information that I put out there as well. And please consider to be a patron. That information will be in the description box below of this episode. Thank you so much for following me. I'm on Facebook, MOLIAE. I'm on Twitter as well. And of course, our website. This website for this particular podcast, basically the home podcast website, is on Spreaker, but the actual production that mainly these stories will be about will be about MOLIAE. I do plan to do modern stories as well, but the homepage will be featured on MOLIAE.com, MOLIAE.com. Thank you. So long.